Every time the aim assist debate comes up, there are so many misconceptions about how aim assist even works in the first place being passed around that it's hard to have a proper discussion about it. How do you have a proper argument with someone who doesn't even know how their own input works? This summary of Reddit user ApexSmurf69's post is to serve as a comprehensive breakdown on how aim assist works and how common arguments are used for and against it, and at the same time dispelling common myths. Full credit goes to their Reddit post, and if you want to go read it yourself, I've linked it in the description. ApexSmurf excuses himself for any possible bias that may appear as he is a mouse and keyboard user, such as myself. But we will go through the arguments and I'll share my opinion as we go on, and obviously at the end of the video. However, the purpose of this video is not to berate or try to sway the public opinion in one way or the other. I'm just tired of having bad faith arguments go nowhere because people don't know the facts to start an argument in the first place. I made a whole video on this. If you want to watch it later, it is right here. So how does aim assist even work? In September last year, YouTuber MasterCriff used R5 Reloaded, which is a fork of the Apex Legends Season 3, which is commonly used by modders to create cool content such as this, to fine-tune the aim assist from its original PC value of 0.4 or 40% to 1.0 or, well, 100%. What you are seeing is how aim assist looks at its maximum potential in the code, and it's safe to assume that a lowered value behaves the same, albeit with less potency. Aim assist on consoles, including the Nintendo Switch, is set to 0.6 or 60% by default. By going into the advanced look control settings on the console, gamers may switch to PC aim assist parameters. PC aim assist is set to 0.4 or 40% by default and cannot be changed. On all systems, ALC settings may be used to completely deactivate AA. Console aim assist is objectively superior to PC aim assist in terms of raw numbers. It is subjective whether it feels stronger or not, but objectively it's stronger. 0.6 is higher than 0.4. And if desired, private lobbies such as tourneys can set the aim assist limit to 0.4 by something called aim assist override. In all Apex Legends Global Series lobbies, this setting is enforced. Now, there has been times where the admins forgot to tick the override aim assist button, but as a whole, it is supposed to be on 0.4. That being said, when console gamers participate in PC lobbies outside of these private lobbies, they maintain their 0.6 aim assist unless they have manually reduced it. This is how console to PC crossplay works and why it's brought up in aim assist discussions. By default, all consoles are pitted against each other. As a PlayStation user, you may play against Xbox players, Nintendo Switch players, and so on, but never against PC players. Console gamers who have crossplay turned off will only be able to play against people from the same console, i.e. Nintendo Switch versus Nintendo Switch. Console players will only be able to play versus PC players if they enter a pre-made party with another PC player. In addition to this, console gamers may also see what console other players in the lobby are using by looking at the symbol. For example, Xbox versus PlayStation. PC users can only see two icons, a controller icon for console players and a PC icon for all PC players, whether or not they have a controller plugged in. As a result, the symbol alone is just simply insufficient to identify whether a player on PC is using a controller or a mouse and keyboard. It is also impractical for the game to identify them with an icon because PC users may easily switch between mouse and keyboard on the fly, even during combat. Reticle slowing and rotational aim assist are the two main components of aim assist. Both of these aspects work together to maintain the reticle on what is known as the aim assist bubble, which is a zone that surrounds each enemy. The reticle must be over the bubble for the AA to operate. Aim assist will disengage after the reticle has escaped the bubble, whether the player manually removed the crosshairs off of the bubble or AA didn't pull hard enough to track a fast moving enemy. It is important to remember that the purpose of aim assist is to keep your reticle relative to the bubble, not to keep your reticle above the opponent. Below is an explanation from Reddit user Taxing Authority, who says, under 100% aim assist, this means that your reticle will move 1-to-1 within the aim assist bubble to maintain its absolute relative location. This in turn means that if you are aiming to the right of your opponent's hitbox, your reticle will stay outside of the hitbox. Under 40%, which is PC, and 60%, which is console, the reticle will not move 1-to-1 and requires targeting input from the player to maintain contact with the opponent's hitbox. The percentage strength of aim assist is how much of the relative location of the reticle will be maintained by the aim assist system. Reticle slowing is exactly what it sounds like. When your reticle crosses the bubble, it slows down. The far more problematic side of aim assist is the rotational aim assist, which rotates the reticle in a given direction without the player sliding the stick in the direction, effectively meaning that AA is tracking for the player. Because of its influence on reaction time, rotational aim assist is widely seen as unfair. This implies that if you're in a strafe battle with someone and they're going left to right in an alternating pattern, it'll take you at least 120 milliseconds to respond to them switching directions if you are reacting 100% manually. A typical gamer's response time is closer to 200 milliseconds, but I digress. And as someone who spends way too long spectating suspected cheaters, the 0 ms reaction time used to be a clear giveaway that someone was using cheats, but with the rise of controller players, it could just mean that they're on aim assist. This latency is considerably reduced by rotational aim assist. It reacts faster than any human to the opponent's directional changes and adjusts the direction of your reticle is traveling regardless of your ability to react to the change. In summary, aim assist accomplishes two goals. One, as you move your right stick to maintain your reticle above the enemy's bubble, it slows down your reticle. And two, it shifts your reticle in an effort to track the enemy's bubble, reacting significantly faster than the typical gamer to the changes in direction. While the aim assist aim snap is not the same as seen on other PvE shooters, it has been observed snapping reticles to the center of the enemy's mass when the reticle was already on target prior to ADSing. Depending on whether you're aiming down sights or not, the range of your aim assist changes. Hip firing has a range of 3 to 33 meters. This means that aim assist disengages within a very short distance of 3 meters, but this is exceedingly close, practically homie kissing distance, meaning that missing rounds at this range is quite tough. ADSing, on the other hand, nearly forever expands the aim assist range. Let me reiterate, there is no technological restriction to aim assist range when you are ADSing. There is, however, a practical limit which exists for 3 reasons. The aim assist bubble shrinks as the distance between you and the adversary increases. This is the most significant reason why it's not as accurate. Recoil control is not directly aided by aim assist, and bullet velocity and travel periods are not compensated for by aim assist. Here's a clip from the 100% aim assist video that I referenced earlier, demonstrating how 100% aim assist properly follows a mid-range target when scoped in and no right stick input. Because the zooming effect increases the size of the aim assist bubble on the screen, a greater magnification optic has practical influence on aim assist. It is worth noting though that the sniper optics, the 6x, the 48x, the 4010x, and the 6 to 10x all lack aim assist. When aiming down sights using these optics, it is deactivated, meaning that you may benefit from using marksman scopes such as the 3x Rangers, the 2 to 4x, or even the 2x Bruiser if you're using any form of sniper rifle on controller. If you have taken part of or casually lurked the comment sections whenever these topics come up, odds are you've probably seen videos like this, showing when a person's hands aren't on the controller at all, but still the reticle moves about and tracks an adversary despite the person's lack of input. You probably also attempted to duplicate it yourself, and then you might have wondered why it didn't work. This is due to the fact that aim assist only activates when it detects some sort of input, whether it's from the left or the right stick. Stick drift is included in this. If you set your dead zone to absolute 0, even the tiniest stick drift will be recorded as an input, and aim assist will engage, leading it to follow people moving around even if you don't tell it to. Also, personally, subjectively, I've seen people say that the shooting range aim assist differs from in-game AA, but I've yet to see a single source confirming this, and everything Apex Smurf knows about Apex source code shows that this wouldn't be the case. Visual clutter, such as muzzle flash, snow flying into the air, L-star rounds, heat shield glare, or any other unintended visual blockage has no effect on aim assist. I mean that the developers didn't intend for this to be a visual stumbling block. Intentional visual impediments, such as the caustic gas or the Bangalore smoke, will reduce the effectiveness of AA substantially. I'm not aware of the specific figures, but I assume it may completely deactivate them, which is also something widely reported by some of my controller viewers. We are also not sure if it's re-enabled when a digital threat scope is added. These following things have zero effect on aim assist: what kind of weapon you have, your KD, your level, your rank, whether you're playing in ranked, whether you're playing in casual, whether you're playing in battle royale or arena. The only things that will have an effect on aim assist are the things I mentioned previously. Now that we have established how exactly aim assist works, let's move on to the juicy part. Let's start off with common arguments that are made supporting aim assist in its current state, or hell, even in favor of buffing it, and also downplays mouse and keyboard users' experience and opinions. The most obvious explanation for this is because most professional Apex players come from games where mouse and keyboard is the default competitive input, such as Counter-Strike and Overwatch. It also has something to do with the attitude. PC is viewed as the serious platform, and most PC gamers utilize mouse and keyboard, whereas the console is seen as the casual. As a result, the majority of newcomers to competitive Apex are mouse and keyboard players by default. Now, there are a variety of reasons why mouse and keyboard pro players do not transition to controller. Many of them have tens of thousands of hours of mouse and keyboard, which is a lot to give up when learning a new input from the ground up. Competitive Apex is a lot more than just simply one-clipping enemies in close combat. Unless someone misses every single shot, everything is pretty much settled before the battles even begin by factors like placement. In competition, when a lot of time is spent poking, aim assist's minimal advantage at mid to long range restricts its utility. Most teams prefer to have one controller player, generally in the fragger role. Controller players are said to be more prone to tunnel vision and are therefore unsuitable for the anchor role, which involves poking. Though if you ask me, this might just be another of those weird anti-controller biases, such as controller players being dumber or worse at movement or positioning or game sense. While the bulk of established professionals in the comp scene use mouse and keyboard, there are an increasing number of controller pros and a good number of established controller pros already, such as all of G2, Naughty, Noct, and many more. Maze for the Imlike PDS-1 was one of the first computer-based first-person shooters. However, they only have a passing resemblance to the game as it exists now. Wolfenstein 3D for the DOS in 1992, which was controlled completely with a keyboard, is the first FPS game that genuinely invented the genre, and not even using a mouse. Although a keyboard is not a controller, the controls were very similar to those of a controller since you can turn and look around using keyboard keys. Then there was Doom 1993. If Wolfenstein 3D originated first-person shooters, Doom defined them. For several years following its debut, future first-person shooters were dubbed Doom clones. Doom has a thriving modding community as well as multiplayer support and the first ever deathmatch option. More crucially, Doom made advantage of mouse and keyboard and even boasted about the accuracy provided by mouse aiming in its instructions, pushing gamers to employ it. Deathmatch 95, one of the earliest ever esports tournaments, included Doom. Finally, there's Quake 1996, which is credited with kickstarting FPS esports. Mouse and keyboard controls were also employed in this. Due to its emphasis on mobility, verticality, and a longer time to kill, Quake might be regarded one of Apex's biggest influences. All these points are brought up just to imply that mouse and keyboard always has been dominating competitive first-person shooters. And since controllers always have been the second best input and not the default, aim assist was created. However, there is clearly a big following of console FPS gamers who were exposed to the genre through Call of Duty and Halo, and aim assist was an integral feature of each of these games. The frame rate for console is at the moment set to 60 frames per second. Furthermore, with the ALGS, aim assist is locked to PC settings, removing the console's lone edge over the PC controller. ALGS is also a very different game than even Masters Ranked, and console gamers with no prior experience with this playstyle are unlikely to qualify on the first attempt. Custom games were added to console very recently, and for the first few years of Apex esports, you could only play custom games through PC. That being said, one console team, called Washed, actually qualified into the ALGS Pro League, indicating that it's not impossible. Furthermore, because PC controllers include aim assist and many of them qualified to the ALGS, this argument is mostly irrelevant. To answer this, Apex Smurf said, "Because I find it boring, as do most other non-professional mouse and keyboard players. We don't play for money, we play for fun. This is an ad hominem argument and it deserves an ad hominem response." Personally, I'm inclined to agree. Even though money obviously is a factor for me as a competitive player and content creator, it also has to be enjoyable, and controller just doesn't feel good. Is that fair to say? We don't have data on this. I'm not in a position to argue either way. And if you're thinking about bringing up the machine learning post, which has since been deleted, it has no evidence to back up any of its claims. As a result, it's a moot matter. I can't really say whether it's true or not. The machine learning post had some interesting statements showing alleged controller win rates, one-click percentage of controller versus mouse and keyboard players, and some weird statements about Gibraltar, but when pressed on evidence and data, the original poster refused to elaborate and eventually deleted the post, making it a very poor source for any type of argument. No sensible person could argue with this. When discussing options for rebalancing aim assist, the commenters are usually advocating for changes such as removing rotational aim assist and leaving the reticle slowdown alone, allowing mouse and keyboard players to choose whether or not to join queues with aim assist gamers. Separation by input is another term for it, and it might not include or exclude comp. Reducing aim assist to a lower number, such as 0.2. When console players join PC games, they would nerf the console aim assist to 0.4, and possibly Respawn actually implementing gyro aiming as it is supposed to be used. If it's that much of a problem for you, then turn it off. In addition to this, hardly a single controller participant in competitive Apex turns their aim assist off during tournaments. How can you say it's a disadvantage if pro players aren't turning it off when playing for thousands of dollars? So, mouse and keyboard can accomplish the following things which a controller cannot. They can tap strafe, even though Respawn has said it's going to be removed, and there are workarounds for tap strafing on PC controller. There's moving while looting. You can do sharp turns that happen almost instantly, as well as any movement skills that rely on them, such as elite leaping, reloading without inadvertently doing other activities such as opening a door or resting, and of course jitter aiming. Other than that, everything that mouse and keyboard can do, controller can do as well. But in some cases, it's a little bit more difficult. Wall bouncing, bunny hopping, punch boosting, super gliding, and other similar moves are included. Controller, on the other hand, actually has a few abuses that are unique just to controller, such as firing right after activating an ability like the Wraith's Face. Furthermore, according to Respawn's own balancing team, aim assist should not be utilized to compensate for input limitations caused by other circumstances, such as being unable to move while looting. Oh, that was a lot. So what about the arguments to support things such as nerfing aim assist? separating the lobbies by input, or removing aim assist altogether. As previously stated, there are only subjective opinions on this and no reliable data to suggest either side of this argument rings true. Apex Smurf says that he cannot think of a counter argument to this, and if you think of one, you can let him know. And personally, this is what I used to say when I started playing Apex competitively years ago, and I still stand by it. It's one of those things that make me feel iffy about mixing inputs in the scene. I still also don't have any good counter argument. Despite the fact that mouse and keyboard is the standard competitive input for FPSs, there is a sizable console audience that uses controllers as their primary input. It all boils down to a question of commercial success. Apex has a competitive component, but let's be honest, the creators are largely console developers. The console audience is the dominant audience, and console gamers all utilize controllers. Unless they cheat, but we don't talk about those. If aim assist was removed from the game, Apex would effectively become unplayable for controller gamers, especially given Apex's own high time to kill. This will be disastrous for the game's profits, and we know this because of Respawn accidentally lowering aim assist on console to PC values, leaving the community in flames. This mostly relates to the previous point. It will be inconvenient and divide viewership if we divide the tournaments by input. Many people also believe it's great to see controller and mouse and keyboard gamers fighting it out in the same tournaments. The major argument I've heard against this is that it will increase queue times, especially on servers that have way fewer users. And as a result, we really doubt that Respawn will adopt this. But it is something brought up by a lot of dissatisfied mouse and keyboard gamers. If you have any other arguments, either for or against aim assist, let me know in the comments and we'll talk about them. Before we end this with my opinion on all of this, I want to preface with that this video is not about me making any calls for changes in the game. I'm just simply highlighting crappy arguments that bog down the community on a daily basis. And it is very common to see pro players and streamers put in a horrible light the second they share any opinions that might not align with the controller crowd, which, looking at all of these facts, is silly. As for my own feelings, it's hard to see why anyone would take such a hard pro aim assist stance with all these facts laid out, but maybe that's the original poster and mine's bias poking through. What do you think? And as usual, I will be keeping my eyes out, making sure to read all of your comments, so I'm curious to hear what you all think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.